I'm Connie Moser. I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Nights at the Round Table. My guest tonight is Stephanie Williams. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to ask you, I have a huge biography here. It took up like half my notebook.
Shows my age.
But I'm just going to ask you, if you don't mind, to tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think my life began when I moved to Manassas because I had never been involved in community affairs or with politics before in my life. I always sort of been a volunteer during my life at different times, but I'd never really gotten into everything. And what happened is our movers scammed us.
Oh.
And so I had to go to the courthouse to have a case, which I won because they were luckily from Prince William County, and I was moving to Prince William County. And anyway, I stopped in at the courthouse, the General District Court office, to ask if they needed a Spanish translator because I was bilingual and I'd never been a court interpreter, but I just kind of did it on a whim. And a few months later, I was called by the courts to come work as a Spanish interpreter. I was really one of the first professional interpreters in the courthouse. At that time, which was October of 1989, there was a sudden arrival of Latinos. Some had come from Texas because construction was down. And really, I think I was the only bilingual professional in the community at that time that people were able to call upon. So I started my work in the courts and ended up doing that for like 15 years straight and interpreting over 6,000 cases. And I helped out at the jail, and I helped the judges learn about the name system for Latinos because they kept calling them by the wrong names and filing them under the wrong names.
Can you explain that to me, because I don't know what that means?
Well, Latinos use two last names, and the one that is seen at the end is not their, if we're just going to take the father's last name, what we would consider the actual last name, which is our father's name until we marry, and sometimes we change to the husband, or the women might just add the husband's name. But usually the mother's name is not used. But in the Latinos use both the mothers and fathers, and the father is seen in the middle position. So people were filing it under the very last name, which is not really the last name. So you could imagine all the trouble. Confusion, because then sometimes say, oh, well, you're using a false name. And that wasn't the case, or they're filing it wrong. So usually they do use two last names, and the one that is next to last is the father's family name, and the last one is the mother's. So they should go together, and with a hyphen, although they don't use the hyphen. They don't have the concept of middle name either. They have sometimes double first names like Juan Carlos or Ana Maria, but they don't have the concept of a middle name. And so there was just a lot of confusion about the names, so I tried to help out.
I can see that. I'm a little confused.
and help out.
If I was talking to Juan Carlos Alvarez
Reyes.
Okay.
So Alvarez, really, if he's gonna answer to anything, it would be Alvarez. That's the father's name, but if you want to say it correctly, it would be Mr. Juan Carlos Alvarez Reyes. But a lot of people say, well, Mr. Reyes. In my court work, the lawyers will say, Mr. Reyes. Well, that's not really the name he would normally answer to.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Because I have to tell you, I've always been interested in languages, but I've never taken language in school, and I tried to ride around with I have Rosetta Stone on audio tape, and I had it in my car, and I rode around all summer with it last year, and I must be hopeless, because it's just, I learned a few words, but to have a conversation.
Well, the fallacy about all of those programs, although they're absolutely wonderful programs, but the truth is that you have to be not beyond motivated. I mean, how many people really put on an exercise video and exercise in their homes?
Right.
Speaking a language is a social activity, And I think really you need the classroom dynamics. And also I was a Spanish professor.
Oh.
So I taught Spanish at Nova and George Mason University and the University of Arizona and in Tucson and Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona, and I don't remember where else because I also did English. So some places Spanish, some places English. And you do need that classroom, I think, for the correction, the positive reinforcement, the social interaction. I honestly don't know how people learn foreign languages, online or with these cassettes and things like that. I think that it's very hard. So you're not the only one. So don't feel too bad about that. But anyway, so I was very involved with the courts and then also the jail. One of the things that I wanted to do was to bring books from Mexico to donate to the library at the jail because there were no reading materials for the Latinos who were in the jail, the adult detention center in Manassas. So I was able to bring all of those and get some business partners to help me pay for them, and we had a big thing at the jail. And so just some of the things that I got involved in. I also had the very first Spanish radio program in Virginia that we taped in Dumfries at a country station, a well-known country station. That was one of the things, and I got an award of Women of the Year I think for that. And
how long did that run?
Oh gosh, it was so long ago I don't even remember, but I think it was on Saturday afternoons at 4 o'clock. One of the other things that I did was, I was able to, because of my work in the legal system, I am very proud to say that I was the first recipient of the Prince William Bar Association's Liberty Bell Award for service to the legal community, and I'm very proud of that. At that time also there was a program that was called OAR, O-A-R, and it was Offender Aid and Restoration. Unfortunately, that program has been successful in different cities of the Commonwealth, but it didn't really take off very well here. But it was a program, and I was on their board of directors. It was a program to help the inmates. Well, gosh. I started a professional women's network group, and I know that you're active, and you founded one. And my group was founded in like 1990 or 91, and it was called the Prince William Network for Professional Women, or Professional Women's Network. And that lasted for a few years. And at that time, I started a company that was a translating company to coincide with my work that I was doing in the courthouse. And after a certain period, the Commonwealth of Virginia instituted a testing program to make sure that self-proclaimed Spanish interpreters really had the skills. And so I was one of the first to become certified by the Virginia Supreme Court.
That's an interesting, I think we all kind of wonder, when I speak English and I ask you to translate, I think we all kind of have a natural, because I've read things that have been translated from other languages, and sometimes they lose a lot of
yeah, the judges have a lot of doubt when they have an interpreter in front of them and a question has been posed to the witness or to the defendant, and the defendant or witness has about a 5-minute response, and the interpreter then interprets by saying,
2 words.
He says yes. And it doesn't go over very well with the judges, but it really is important to ascertain the ability of interpreter. A lot of people see us at work and they think, oh, I'm bilingual, I can do that. And most people will not pass the exam. So there are a lot of skills that people don't realize.
I imagine there's some dependency on not only meanings, like in the English language, it's very confusing. If I say to, it's T-O or T-O-O, or there's different uses for the word sounds the same, but they have different spellings and they have different meanings. And so I would think that would be the hardest part of that bilingual translation is you do also translate from English to Spanish, I assume.
Right,
it's
both
not
ways.
Just one way.
And also, there's a misconception, Connie, about interpreting versus translating. Interpreting is what you do when it's verbal. And you have to interpret sound level, intonation, anger, if a person is being facetious, all the different, and the hums and the ums, and it's called the different register also if they're talking slang, if they're using foul language. Everything has to be interpreted in the tone, in the sound of the person. So it's way different from translating, which is the written word. But a lot of times we use translate because people won't understand, but it's called court interpretation and not translation.
Thank you.
A lot of people don't know that, but it is. You also have to know language used in all the different countries, the slang particularly, and also words for drug items, for illicit activity, lots of things. So it's harder.
Take your word on that.
It's harder than
Pretty
people
sure I don't
think.
want to know that.
So then I did get involved in politics. There seemed to be a lot going on here in the county at that time. I won't go into history, but I did run for county office, supervisor of the Gainesville district. So that was a very interesting experience. I had never really been a political person. I mean, I definitely believe in voting, but I had never been political. So
are you still interested in that?
No. No, once was enough, and but it was a good good experience. I didn't win the primary, but it was an interesting experience, and I think people need to do what they believe in and try to help their community in many different ways. So
well, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes. I know we had some pretty tough times here during the foreclosure crisis, and there was a lot of bitterness and anger and feeling that I think many immigrants felt that they were not welcome in Prince William County. And
well, that was before the foreclosure problem. That was when this county took some pretty severe measures against the Hispanics. I'm smiling because I remember the marathon public hearing that went on for about 20 hours. I mean, I think it ended at 5 in the morning, or I don't remember, but there was media from far and wide, Spanish media, and people spoke heartfelt. And of course, it didn't help because the county voted to take those measures. But anyway, that's in the past, and
we have evolved,
and so we've evolved from that and survived. And
I want to say wiser. Really, all experiences, I think, good or bad, shape your future. So surely we've been through the baptism of fire with that, and have come out the other side with a better understanding and a more open relationship and less divisiveness, I hope, anyway.
Yes, I think people are beginning to realize that the diversity does make us strong, and yes, there were a lot of people did come here illegally, and I know there's strong feelings about that, and hopefully this whole situation is going to be resolved on the national level at some point. I did want to mention something else that I started up soon after I came here. I was a big-time hiker, and I started up a hiking club that right here in Manassas, but we named it the Northern Virginia Hiking Club, and it's a club that now has around 800 members.
Wow.
Called the Northern Virginia Hiking Club. I'm sort of thinking of starting one that's called the Manassas Hiking Club for people who just might want to hike at the Manassas battlefield, because it's so convenient, and it's so lovely over there, and you just don't, with the congestion, gosh, I remember being able to whiz into Washington on Sundays to see movies, because
you have been here a long time.
I now, Now it's just like commuting time.
Yes.
Anytime on the weekends. I'm always thinking, there's got to be an accident. Is there a game, a football game? What's going on? Nothing's probably going on, but it's just frustrating. So there's just wonderful hiking trails at the Manassas Battlefield for people, particularly who are in Manassas, and can just get over there in 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. So just a kind of array of things that I've been doing.
You are multi-talented, multifaceted. Where I met you, I think was, I think I met you through a friend of ours, Jim Hollis. But it was definitely concerning signs and signage, illegal signage in Prince William County.
Correct.
I know that's a big hot spot for you, and it is for me too.
Yes. Well, it really became a problem to me in just the last 2 or 3 years. I never noticed an array of signs out on the street, and maybe it's a fallout from the economic crisis that we're in for businesses. Of course, we're starting to, pull out of that. But I mean, we did have the Great Recession. I mean, the closest thing to the Big Depression. So I guess businesses were absolutely in distress, and needing to advertise, but I just really noticed them, and I do live near a major road, Sudley Road in Manassas, and the business route, and of course that is one of the places, and there are many others, but that whole route till you get to 66 has been prime space for people to put out their signs, and to me it absolutely is an affront on the landscape and the environment, and so that's how we met. We share that, and I hope other people in the community who haven't spoken up and haven't done anything or called or complained, but I have to think that there are thousands upon thousands of other people who would rather not see those atrocious signs. The problem with the signs is that one may not be that noticeable, but when one is out, other businesses say, oh, 40,000 people will see my sign if I put it out, and so they put it out, and then there's an absolute proliferation of these signs.
And some of it is very deliberate. I mean, it's obvious that when they're posting signs 20 foot up on a telephone pole so you won't take them down, I mean, I'm pretty sure then they know. Or
they're putting them out in the middle of the night. I mean, let's face it, they pay people to put them out. And it just, then the streets just look like a ghetto. I mean, I've never lived in a ghetto, but I've seen pictures of ghettos, and
it probably looked just like that.
It just looks horrible, and there are some businesses that I call them repeat offenders because they keep doing it, and I think that the department in the county, Neighborhood Services, has done a heroic job of making a difference, and I've certainly seen it since we actually made presentations before the Board of Supervisors, and
I think we have one of those we're going to run in the background here for you. So
showed them right in their face the photos of what the streets look like, especially on holiday weekends when people want to go out and they go shopping and go to the restaurants and enjoy their community, and that's when, especially on all the holiday weekends, and I'm saying they have to use other means to advertise and promote their company and their business and their services and their sales and specials, and not the streets.
Sure. Well, I think, first of all, it's a big source of pollution because they blow away, or they wind up in the storm drains, and they wind up in the creeks, and often from small businesses, they attach those signs with all, you name it. They're zip tied, they're nailed, they're glued, they're taped, and then when the signs are gone, all of that detritus is behind. You can pull up at any stop sign and see a pole that's just mangled with things hanging off of it that were part of those signs. And so it's visually unattractive, it's environmentally unfriendly, and I don't really think it works because When I see all those, I wouldn't go to that store for anything. You put 25 signs out there telling me to come by, I am not interested in doing business in that store.
Well, unfortunately, I think that there are people who will get a phone number off these signs and whatnot, and you know, they are seen by thousands and thousands of people. And I would like to really clarify for your viewers. I'm going to look straight out at our camera there. It is illegal under laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia and also in Prince William County. So it is breaking the law, and there are penalties in place. So
to post a sign in the median, it's against the law.
Right. These, what they're so-called popsicle signs and the feather signs, those tall ones that some companies and even gas stations and barber shops are starting to use. They're called feather signs.
Anything that shows movement is illegal in Prince William County because it's a traffic hazard.
So in the median, and there's also it's close to the road. There's also some
VDOT right away, that strip of land in between the sidewalk and the street.
Right.
That is VDOT right away, and so no, you cannot post a sign there. No one can.
Right. So I think that I'm hoping that the county will be more proactive in letting business owners know when they take out business licenses or when they pay their business taxes, and that I know that Neighborhood Services and maybe we can come back at some future time and tell about the different measures being taken to address this problem. And
well, there's actually an informational meeting tonight for citizens at the county building, and it's for it's the education of residents by a county code inspector who will explain to residents what to look for and what constitutes illegal signs, so that people know that even those yard sale signs, everyone runs out on Friday night and sticks their yard sale signs. That's illegal.
But then they don't go and pick them up at the end of the weekend, and so they're just fluttering everywhere and in the grass. And the other thing that I'm feel very strongly about is cars parked on grass. As a nature lover, this is something that just absolutely just completely turns me off. And cars parked on lawns and grass and even by front doors, and sometimes I see them parallel to the street.
We're gonna get on a roll here because,
oh my gosh.
Because the next thing I want to say is, you know what makes me crazy? Those roll-off trash cans with the with the lid where you put your trash in. People park them on their front porch like they're lawn ornaments. They're sitting right in front of your house.
Yeah.
In Prince William County, the ordinance says you have to put those out of sight. You have to put them on the side of the house or behind shrubbery or some way concealed. Some people never take them back from the curb.
Right.
So we can.
Well, there's also storage in carports. There's certain things you can't. Well, there's just lots of things. Unused cars that are parked in backyards and things like that. Boats have to be on concrete. They can't just be parked on grass. And there's a lot of things. But we all have to be concerned about how our neighborhood looks and how our community looks. For one thing, for selfish reasons, which would be our home values.
Absolutely.
If nothing more, we need to think about that. So.
Well, we evolved from such a rural community. 20 years ago, it was all farmland, and you can still drive, across country today and see farmland where people they drive their car out there. It quits running, and they leave it there, and everything grows up through it, and it just goes back to the land. And I think, it's hard for residents of Prince William County, especially long-time residents, and because we're a Dillon Rule state where Prince William County has no power except what the state has given to us. We can't make any of our own rules. All we can do is maybe tweak a little bit what the state says we can do. So we have a whole population of people that don't want to be told what they can put in their yards. They don't appreciate that, and they don't want you coming around there telling them that. And then we have this whole I'm a 27-year resident, and you've been here?
23.
Yeah. So we're actually the usurpers. We're the ones that's stepping on their toes because we don't want to see that stuff. But it does affect your property values. And not only that, it affects your mental state. I think, you know, people respond to beautiful things. People, you feel more comfortable, more confident, you're happier. When you see all that chaos and confusion, and it just does something
and junk.
to yeah,
And junk
yeah,
around.
it does something to you, you know, it's just not satisfying.
We should point out that businesses can incur a $100 fine for each and every sign. So if they have 10 signs out there on a holiday weekend, that's a $1,000 fine, and so they can incur that and as a minimum. So we should kind of put that out there.
There's also a coming up. I think it's May 7th. I think there's a meeting for businesses with Prince William County Zoning Administration to explain to businesses what they can and cannot do. So I'm assuming that is a step of outreach in that Prince William County is making an effort to educate both residents and business owners, because residents are as guilty as business owners when it comes to the weekends and their signs, their massage for $45 and puppies for sale, and yeah, sure I would answer one of those.
I know that April is Litter Enforcement Month, and so I think that, you know, it's spring cleaning, so it's very appropriate, and I think the word has gotten out pretty well for Litter Enforcement Month for April. So. Okay,
well, I just want to, I don't want to keep you here all day, so I do want to talk about I know you're a pet or I don't know, should I say a pet enthusiast?
Pet lover, an animal lover, and we didn't talk yet about the TV show.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let's do that first. And
because of my work with the Hispanic community. You know, many years ago in Prince William County, there was a family. A couple of days before Christmas, almost the whole family perished in a fire in Dale City, and the whole community really felt that horrible tragedy.
Absolutely.
And so in around 1990, that was very soon after I came to the county. I started up a Spanish language TV show, and that was on the air for a couple of years, and the focus was on fire prevention and crime prevention. And then I got busy and I let the show go by the wayside and decided that the need was very much still there. So in 2001, brought back the show, and now we just celebrated in April, we're celebrating our 12th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Same title of the show is called Panorama Latino. It's an all Spanish TV show. It's an interview format, and it's seen on Comcast Channel 2 every Friday night at 8:30 p.m., 30-minute show. We tape once a month, so the same show is seen. And we have been able to interview police officers, firefighters. We've had the Regional Gang Task Force. We've had officials from the IRS come to explain how to do the taxes and answer questions. Social Security Administration, Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts of America, American Cancer Society, people coming from far and wide to be on the show. We also have announcements of cultural events. So we've had people from the Hilton Performing Arts Center. In fact, the executive director, Rick Davis, who speaks Spanish, has been on the show. We've had authors and writers and poets and artists who are Latinos on the show. So as I said, the main focus is to save lives by giving essential information to people in the language they can understand. And I think this is very critical. It's the only show of its kind, certainly in Prince William County and in most of Northern Virginia.
That's quite a service.
Really important show.
Do you ever cover those issues, those neighborhood services issues that we were talking about?
Oh yes, we've had Inspector Miguel Chavez has been on the show many times to talk about a variety of topics, including the cars on grass and popsicle signs and litter, and can't remember all his topics, but he has been a wonderful representative of neighborhood services. And Inspector Chavez, yes, we do. We do have him on the show. Most of the things going on in the county We definitely try to cover Human Rights Commission, the Boys and Girls Club, which is local, the Prince William Health Department, the Prince William Hospital, other medical clinics and wellness clinics, and other things going on in the community to help people. So we extend that invitation.
Comcast provides this as a
The studio, they provide this as a community service, right? And one of our main sponsors is Novec, who really continues to reach out to the community to give support, and they are our main sponsor.
Okay. All right. Well, we definitely want to talk about that before you go. So.
Okay. Well, from the environment, we know that we see some cats running around our communities, and these are feral cats. And I became acquainted with feral cats when 2 such cats ended up on my back deck, and I made a mistake to feed them. And then I put out an SOS because I didn't know what to do for them, with them. And I had 1 cat in the house at that time. And
can I just stop you for a second? Maybe not everyone understands what a feral cat is.
Yeah, and I didn't either. I had heard of stray cats.
But there's a difference.
But yes, and I never had heard of the word feral. Well, the feral cats are the street cats who were either born outside or have lived a long time outside, and they're the ones that you hear in the middle of the night and maybe fighting. They're the ones that raid garbage cans. They are basically the outdoor cats. They are cats who live outdoors and who have usually never lived indoors. If they did, maybe they were let out and they've been outside a long time, and they're afraid of people.
Exactly.
They
That's what I
run
was
from
gonna
people.
say. Yeah, they're not the come here kitty cats.
No.
Yeah.
You usually will come out at night or early in the morning. If they have a place that where they're being fed, they'll usually come in the morning, and then around 5 or 6 p.m. As these cats would come in the morning, and then they would come back at 5 or 6. So they wanted breakfast and they wanted dinner. They skipped lunch. And I actually have a picture of my little kitty cats. It might be too small, but this one and this one, and they look alike, and they were seen in the neighborhood. So I think they're sister and brother. And one was female and one was male. And as the days went on, I saw the female looking fatter and fatter. So I realized that she was pregnant.
Oh.
But by then I had contacted and gotten acquainted with these amazing people who dedicate their lives to feral cats. Now, I was a dog lover. I have to admit, I have had a dog since I was 11 years old. I'm crazy about dogs, and I'm crazy about animals, but dogs mostly. But if an animal finds me, they really have a good life coming down the road because I can't turn them away. So people lent me traps, they lent me cages. I learned, I have a big file on information I gathered. These are living beings, and we still have a responsibility to any living animal that we see. So I learned that there is a nationwide movement called Trap, Neuter, Release, TNR. And it stands for Trap, Neuter, and Release. And when a cat has been neutered, either spayed or neutered for the males, they get their ear partially cut off. And it doesn't hurt them, but it is a signal to people that they have been neutered. And that's a good thing, because they can live a lot more healthy on the street. They won't engage in certainly reproduction or cat fights. So all those scary sounds, which always scared me to if I ever heard or saw cats fighting. But then they just can live healthy lives, and they're not reproducing. And so there's just amazing people who are feeding colonies of cats. They usually live in the outdoors in colonies, and there are people.
How many would
a colony could be 3 to 30. I mean, there's no particular number, but they just usually will move in groups and feed in groups. And there's just amazing people who feed scores of cats every single day. Sometimes they travel a distance to feed them. There's another person who traps cats all the time and then takes them to the vet, takes them back to her house for recovering after the surgery, and then you have to release them back to the area you pick them up. So to help two nonprofit groups that are totally overwhelmed, myself and another lady, Tony Tucker, who lives in the Lake Ridge area, started a group called Prince William Area Friends of Feral Cats. Mm-hmm. And our mission is to hold fundraising events that could either be a bake sale or collection of cat food and cash mm-hmm. for these two 501c3 nonprofit groups to help them with their efforts. They are paying for the vaccinations. The cats get vaccinated as well, for the spaying and neutering and feeding and whatnot. So they're just absolute people who are dedicating their lives, and they're just incredible, incredible people. And so we have various dates. We're advertising in the local newspapers, and we don't have a website yet, mm-hmm. but the two groups that we're working on behalf of do have websites, and one is called Dewey Animals Incorporated.
D-E-W?
E-Y, Dewey. And the other one is called A Cat's Friend, mm-hmm. Inc., A Cat's Friend. And so we do have a number of, we're mostly in Manassas. We're working right now through the giant supermarkets. We have a date June 1st at the we're working either the Westgate Giant or else the Wellington Giant. And then we have a date coming up, actually this Saturday, one in Lake Ridge mm-hmm. and one in Manassas. And Manassas is at the Wellington Station Giant, and we have them, coming up every month. And so this is a way we're also to raise awareness and to get cat food donations, cash, and that's our main goal, to help these.
I have to ask you. I've talked to after we had lunch not too long ago, and I talked to several people about this, and they're big. The number one thing I heard was, well, we don't want them to release those cats. If you catch them and neuter them, you should keep them. How do you respond to that?
Well, those people are very lacking of knowledge about feral cats. Unless kittens, which kittens have been caught, and if they're young enough, they can be socialized mm-hmm. and they can be adopted out to good homes. Mm-hmm. But if a cat is too old, let's say 3 months, that may be too old. The kitten is 3 months, that might be too old. But it depends. You can take some feral cats into the home, mm-hmm. as I did mine, but they came in after being under anesthesia when they were the same day of their surgery, when the vet released them, and they were still coming out of their anesthesia, and they were each different times. They were put into a large cage, like 4 feet mm-hmm. by 4 feet or 3 feet by 3 feet, where they could live and have a litter box put in and food and water and where they can sleep. And I let my cat out after about 2 to 3 weeks because it really couldn't walk too far in it. And mm-hmm. But I had made everything prepared for them. And some cats are a little bit more vicious than others, but you have to know how to do it. It's not just saying you can release them into someone's home. No. And there are so many cats out there, and the only other option is to, and a lot of animal shelters are now going to the trend of being no-kill mm-hmm. Centers, mm-hmm. And the cats that are picked up, they know to call these people who have rescue groups who will take the feral cats, and they will get them spayed and neutered and then release them. A lot of people have expressed hatred for cats, and I can empathize because I was not a cat lover. But when you see really the potential, a lot of them can be the sweetest and most loving cats, as my cats are now mm-hmm. that they're in my home. They do have tendencies that other cats will never have. In other words, They can't be let outdoors because they will revert back to. I have let out one cat, and he comes back, but I have a large yard, and I keep hoping he will not go over the fence. But he has, but he comes back. But I don't want him to go. I have almost a half acre, and I don't want him to leave the yard. The other one is not as attached, and I would never let her out. I don't know how many years it'll be before I let her out. But you know, I know he enjoys the yard, and I hate to keep an animal. But that is the big difference. So they do have these tendencies, but they just don't know what they're talking about. They cannot be released to somebody, and there's just not enough homes for them. There's some people who already have 15 cats in their homes. You know, you see on TV these programs about hoarders or people who have cats. They can't take care of them, that have 20 and 30 cats, and finally the authorities are notified. And those cats don't live any better than the cats, or they live worse.
Absolutely.
And so, so people are doing as much as they can. But these cats can live very well on the outside. They won't bother people. They've been vaccinated. They're not carrying any disease, and they can't reproduce. They're not going to be getting into fights. They're not going to be reproducing. And people should either just try to be a little compassionate and let them be, and know that there are people taking care of them. These two organizations just cannot take more calls. They are so overwhelmed.
I'm sure.
And they've just dedicate their lives to 24/7. But with more volunteers, if people are interested in saving animals, they can call me to volunteer, and I'll be glad to give out my phone number. And taking a 4-hour shift at these fundraisers is very easy. It's enjoyable, and people have responded in an amazing way. Yes, you do have 2 or 3 coming up. No, I don't like cats. Fine. Alley Cats is a national group based in Washington, D.C. It's called alleycats.org, I think. They put out some wonderful information and pamphlets in English and Spanish about, you know, how to live with feral cats in your neighborhood and what to do. And so I encourage people, if they want more information, to go to feralcats.org. No, I'm sorry, Alley Cat Alleys. Yeah, I think it's called alleycatalleys.org in Washington, D.C. And they can call me if I may give out my phone number. Sure. Which is 703-369-0888. 703-369-0888. And I can, you know, if they're feeding them, they'll be very easy to trap. They'll be returned to that location once they've been spayed or neutered and vaccinated.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing service, and I'm sure you're doing something wonderful for the community, and not just the cats, but everything you do for the community. I think you're such a giving person and such an asset to Prince William County. And I want to thank you very much for coming to see me today.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate I may have you back again.
Love to.
And I would like to thank our viewers for tuning in. Also, thanks to our producer, Bill Golden, who's been producing this series for us in promotion of his Jobs 2013 program. And we'll see you next week.